Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler. Glad to be back on the program today. Got a lot I want to talk about tonight. I do recall there was a big fight over the weekend. It wasn't here in America. It was in Saudi Arabia. Tyson Fury and this, what's his name? Yuschek. I should get it right. Alexander Yuschek, whatever. He's undefeated and heavyweight champion of the world. I'm putting respect on his name. So I'm going to talk about that fight over the past weekend. Of course, I'm going to preview probably right after the break. Preview the Minnesota Dallas is going to be a lot better than I originally thought after looking forward into it in this playoffs. Talk a little bit of Pacers, Celtics, and more. Go over the playoffs and whatnot, and got a few quick announcements to make right after break. But first, let's go ahead and take our first and only break. And I'll be back here in 49 seconds, and we'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Want to make some announcements. Tune in tomorrow, folks. Thursday. Do not forget, tune in tomorrow. I'm going to have Ralph Williams on. Ralph Williams from the Sports Corner radio show. Ralph Williams was Smoking Joe Frazier. That's the host. That's a show that he hosts with, Jim Frazier every Tuesday, 3:30 or 4 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and, of course, the X Out platforms, okay? Ralph is going to come on my program tomorrow, 30 minutes past the hour, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. Ralph has got a radio background, sports talk radio, very big in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. Met him through Jeremy Ballrick out of Detroit. Jeremy's big Detroit Lions fan. I've told you all I went on his program, the Biting Kneecaps, Detroit Lions sports channel there off of YouTube. And this guy really knows his stuff here. Ralph Williams will be on the program tomorrow. Want to get his take on Mike Tomlin's future, this year's Steelers team. That's going to be a very, very good show. Cannot wait to get Ralph. And I'm going to be on Ralph's show. Meant to be on Ralph's show last Tuesday, but I had to get some artwork done on my vehicle, folks. So that kind of leads me to why that you say, man, you're getting a lot of replays here lately. Well, again, this show, I know how good this show can be. I just have to get the proper advertising for this show. And that's going to cost money, making more sacrifices with my job. And I put off moving. I've put off moving to for this year anyways. And just saving that money. I'm putting in advertising. So I had to get a wrap done at your car advertise. A lot of you ABC drivers that listen to the program. Okay. You all know what I'm talking about. So I had to get a wrap put on for. So we're doing some little advertising. All that's going back into this program to advertise on YouTube, to Spotify, get all those advertisements out there, So trying to go a little bit more than just sharing this program. So I'm having to sacrifice being on the program to get more cash to put it into this program. This will be year 3 of going 5 days a week, and Labor Day, the day after Labor Day. This is year 7. Year 7. That's May here. This is the 7th year anniversary since starting SportsScope, which started on the Periscope channel. There's no longer a Periscope out, but I still kept the that name. Now, folks, you know that the page was hacked, and of course Facebook kicked me off. I had about 3,500 sports, and I'm just now getting all that back just for having the Facebook logo in the background. So just giving you a quick background and update on everything. So Minnesota. So let's talk about, since it's coming up, let's talk about this preview of this game. We'll do a little bit of backtracking here in just a little bit under Game 7s. There were 2 Game 7s over the weekend since the last time I talked to you. There will be a little backtracking, but here in about 30 minutes, because it's usually the tip-off is usually about 10 minutes after the actual time that they're going to play this game between Minnesota to the Timberwolves and the Mavericks. Now, looking into the Mavericks a little bit closer, looking into their roster, looking at the injuries they have versus the injuries. I say injury, but they're still playing. Karl Anthony Towns coming back from a knee injury, playing through it. Was it like a meniscus tear he had earlier on this year, Pickles, right? And of course, Mike Conley missed a game in the last series versus Luka's injury, who's got a flood of injuries. Okay, Luka Doncic with Dallas. This is going to be a very, very highly, much more, let me rephrase that, much more anticipated matchup than I originally thought after breaking this thing down. During the regular season, Dallas, Minnesota had a 3-1 edge here in the regular season, but that did not count the additions to, and I'll talk about this a little bit later as well, Dallas's PJ Washington from Charlotte. Washington has been just a complete godsend. Kudos to the management of the Dallas Mavericks. 21 points the other night. Really, really big contributor there in that trade. And, of course, the addition of big man center there, Daniel Gafford Pickles out of Washington, who is complementing this highly rookie folks, but highly effective player, Derek Lively, who has been playing Lively. Lively's coming off the bench, but his numbers are better than Gafford. But these two guys can match up with Rudy Gobert and, of course, Karl Anthony Towns. That wasn't the case before January, before this trade deadline move was made here to match up with those things. So it'll come down to, in my opinion, can Karl Anthony Towns stay healthy and effective versus, again, Luka, who has also had a list of injuries, like I said earlier, stay the same. Can Minnesota get effective, consistent play out of Jaden Daniels, who had a big game in Game 7 and that big 20-point comeback there on the road at Denver? Did not see that coming. But can he bring that on the road? Well, that'll be at home in this next series against Dallas, okay? Him and, of course, 6th Man of the Year, Naz Reid. And like I said earlier as well, Mike Conley, can he, air quote, remain healthy? Can Mike Conley remain healthy versus Dallas's P.J. Washington or even a Tim Hardaway, who's also another role player? Hardaway did have a quiet series against OKC, but he may have a much better matchup here in this Minnesota series. So, again, I originally anticipated that Minnesota could probably win this in 6, maybe 5. And then I thought, well, maybe then again it could be Dallas in 6, believe it or not. It just depends on who can stay healthy. The battle of attrition. So I guess I'll stick with Minnesota, the best defense in there, and I think Edwards is going to continue his play probably in 6 games. But this could very well go the other way. Makes it a lot more interesting than originally one would say. And of course, like I said, the winner of that Minnesota Denver could win it. But that being said, look at a team like Boston there per se, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute. But look at a team like Boston. Could it be one of those years where they possibly may get Kristaps Porzingis back by Game 4 of this series? Okay, could they simply be the last team standing as far as health is concerned and play one of these beat up Dallas teams or beat up Minnesota team, kind of like themselves a few years ago, where they were beat up against Golden State and mentally beat up against coming into that series? Remember, not last year, a few years ago, when they lost to Golden State there, when I thought they were the better team, but the Heat pushed them to 7 games. They had 7-game series. Prior to that, took a lot out of them and end up losing ultimately to the Golden State Warriors. Could this be the case? I don't know. But that wanted to get right there to that. That would be a good transition. Pickles thinks that Mike Conley is a big asset. Yeah, he's out. They lose Game 6 or Game 5, critical Game 5. He comes back. They 45-point blowout. And then they come back from 20 down. Still can't believe it. I know we're 72 hours away from that last game, but I was really, really disappointed in Denver. Are a tough team, tough out for any team, and Luka isn't playing 100% is what Pickle says. I don't think he is either. Some days he gets the ball over the rim, which it feels like he's not as tired. Other days he hits it below, a lot of bouncing up and down. You could tell that whatever's bothering him or whatever he may be taking a shot up with simply is wearing off, in my opinion. You never know what you're going to get for him with all these injuries here. So I take Minnesota in 6, but this could very well go the other way. If this game is tied late, and it comes down to trading shots, I could see a scenario where a Kyrie or a PJ Washington simply just makes the big play. They make the big play and it goes the other way, which that makes it a great game. I'm recording it. I'll be a little bit behind, but I will watch this game. If not today, I will finish it off tomorrow. But I did tape another game. I recorded another game last night. Actually woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning and realized this thing went in overtime. So I did not delete it. I did watch it all the way through. This Celtics style, continuing to shoot the 3 ball or missing late. Indiana comes back. They were up 12-0 early, the Celtics. Early on, then they play more aggressive in the game, getting their free throws. 24-9 differential is the difference there. Helps them with the win. Kristaps Porzingis, like I mentioned earlier, will be back. There's a possibility he could be back by Game 4 of this particular series. Like I was saying earlier, big shot though by Jaylen Brown, huh? Big shot there, Pickles. Well, we got 12 seconds hitting that big 3 there to get it into overtime. They have a habit, particularly Al Horford, taking too many threes against this team and almost coughed that game away. Most of us thought they were going to cough it away, if not for a big 3 there by Brown. That would be a memorable 3 of the playoffs if they end up getting to the final and or winning the championship there against this much more younger as a whole and inferior team. I know that Siakam it came over in a trade, and of course Miles Turner's got some age, but your Highly Burdens of the world and some of these other players they've got are very, very young players here for this Indiana Pacer team. But I thought, honestly, I still think it could probably go 6. There's a possibility it could still go 6. That's how Boston, they're so up and down. They still shoot a lot of threes here. I do like the fact that they were more aggressive than Indiana in this particular game. Game 2, they'll either blow Indiana's doors off or they'll simply get upset. There will not be in between. The in-between game was this game. You at least expect a coin flip in the playoffs. Yeah. So it's like I said before, what's really playing into their favor right now is the battle of attrition for the Celtics team. If you look at it, with Porzingis possibly coming back in by game 4 of this series, okay, look at the wars already that in the last 2 series there. The OKC series with Dallas there, which was back and forth, could have went either way. They were down in the games they were winning. The Mavs come back and get the win. And I'm not sure what percentage of help Kyrie's in. I mean, he's scoring, 10, 12 points a game, taking less than 15 shots there. Not really sure how healthy he is. Maybe he comes up big in this particular series here, But OKC gave them all they can handle. They really did. They gave them all they can handle. Although that Clipper team looked a little fatigued, they always seem to play Dallas really well. Those 2 teams just play each other well. It's a very tight series here. And you look at Luka's injuries there, and you're just not sure what you're going to get there with them. But my point is, they're banged up. Minnesota being like that, them coming in and by the way, for the record, although they haven't played great at home, they won last night. They will have home court advantage, this Boston team, if they go on and win. Now, I want to say the percentages of winning game 1, it's like 80% or something like that. If you're the home team and win game 1, the crucial game 1. But this year, you can kind of throw these a lot of these statistics out of the window, judging by the way these game 7 games have went over the past weekend, and I guess that would be a pretty good transition there. Yeah, OKC is a very Pickle says young and talented team, right smack dab in the middle of the country. And Sam, this is really turning into a management run type of league. If you look at I read something the other day that one of the former GM assistants, there was a connection there with Denver management team that helped build Denver. Moves on to Minnesota, their general manager. Now he helps build Minnesota up. Now they're in a championship condition. So. This is more. I mean, you need some coaching. We've seen that, but also it's more about the general manager, the front office, the farther and farther teams like Memphis get away from Jerry West, who helped out with Memphis, or Bob Meyer, or he actually helped out with Golden State as well. Put them together. The Lakers, Jerry West, everything. Guys like that. Sam Presti. Danny Ainge, he's built that Boston team. Now he's compiling picks and he's building up this Utah team. So front office is a really good deal. And I've heard something the other day about the front office. That Jim Dolan is letting his guys run their team. And look at the Knicks now. They're playing really well. They're better than they have been over the past 25 years. Okay, let's go back to last weekend. I had to work last weekend. Game 7s again. Game 7s last weekend. Home teams typically 112-37. Yes, that's a 75% winning percentage. The Nuggets let's do a little quick recap here. The Nuggets being up 20 points at home in the second half, being the winner of game 5. You start adding all that up. They're 92% chance to win this game. But you look at this, people say, what about the Joker? What about Jamal Murray? Did you guys look at the box score? Joker ran out of gas, and they had 69 points between them. It was the other players that didn't show up for Denver. Aaron Gordon, 4 points. Now, Gordon had 5 fouls. Aaron Gordon gives 110% on defense, just like he does offense. He had the 5 fouls. He was playing somewhat gingerly. He didn't want to get that 6 foul late. Only 4 points out of him, but 7 points out of Michael Porter. 5 points off their bench. Totally killing this Denver team here. And Michael Porter, I've seen this last year. He loves the Michael Porter for Denver, Pickles, loves to hang out by that 3-point line. 6'10". They needed him inside. I know he is a very streaky player, has the ability to hit big shots at big times. But with what they're paying him, being at 6'10" here, he would be the player I would look to move. Gordon brings it every night on both sides of the ball. Jamal Murray, the chemistry with him and the Joker is impeccable. I don't think this team's done, by the way. You know, those guys all 28, 29 years old. All of them were still hovering under 30, even at 30. Still, they're still a very, very good team here. They need some bench help, and you need another ploy there for Michael Porter. You can move him for some help. I tell you what, he would be a good play there for a New York Knicks team. You know, him or they need some length there. So I don't know if he can handle the coaching there. If Tom Thibodeau is going to run him in the ground. But that's something that I would look at. And again, the flip side there, 23 out of Jaden Daniels, they're going to need that again tonight if they want to beat. They're going to need some contribution out of him tonight if Minnesota wants to beat Dallas here. So you do the math on all that. That's a point differential of 8 points here from Daniels here. Again, they nothing out of their bench, 5 points total off their bench. 5, so it was the other players around him. And typically, Denver would have been normally good shape because home teams, the role players play better at home. The role players play better at home. Typically, that was not the case on Sunday night. The big win. First finals appearance, and yes, 20 years to the exact, going back to Kevin Garnett and it was not Rasheed Wallace. I can't remember that guy's name now, but it was a Kevin Garnett team. Of course, we know Kevin Garnett later on, 4 years later, later on got moved to Boston and didn't get a chance to win his first and only championship, So I would look to possibly move Porter in the summertime and retool if I'm Denver. And Minnesota, again, Mike Conley's not getting any younger. This is your opportunity. You never know what next year holds here. Not saying that you're going to get past Dallas, just saying don't rest on your laurels. Don't assume anything. And, of course, as far as the East, the Knicks, I mentioned this last week, not last Friday. I was going to have a show Friday. Carlos had I think he had to go to family's graduation there. Plus, I had to work very early Sunday. But we mentioned this the Friday before that that the Knicks were simply falling apart. 7 key players, if you include Brunson's broken hand during the game here. I thought simply they would squeak out a Game 7 only to get beat in a 5-gamer, possibly to Boston in a gentleman's sweep. But with these rumors of a massive extension coming for Coach Thibodeau, Ray Allen. That's who Pickle. Ray Allen was one of the other players that was acquired to Boston here. I'll have to look at that. There was that player that coached. Remember that player that choked his. That choked his coach there in Golden State. I want to say Sam Cassell was on that team. The 24, and of course you had Kevin Durant here. And I seen a picture of a player, and it looks like Latrell Sprewell. That's who I was trying to think of. Latrell Sprewell was on that 2004 team. Pickles put it down before I got it off here. When I said choked his PJ Clarissimo, I think he was a Golden State coach then. Sprewell, former New York Knick. Very good player here. A little bit short-tempered, but I love Sprewell's play. They had a good team, but hey, listen, the Lakers are just the Lakers. They're a hard team to beat. Okay? But anyways, going back to the Knicks here. So with these rumors, there's a massive $10 million plus extension being talked about for Tom Thibodeau. You got to wonder, will Coach Thibs, will he adjust his style, per se? Will he adjust his style? Will he take his foot off the gas just a little bit? Because it makes the Mad New Yorker look like he knows what he's talking about with his grinding players in the ground here. He is such a good culture builder, you know. Is he just a guy that if you got a bad team, like for example, the Memphis Grizzlies, okay? I've heard reports. I think it was Rick Bucher off Fox Sports reported that they run a loose ship down in Memphis, okay? With the Grizzlies here. I know they've had some injuries this year, but even last year when they were like a 2 seed in the playoffs, that the coaching staff and environment was a loose ship. A lot of talent on that team before they dealt off Dillon Brooks, and of course the injuries that occurred there prior to this. But they did add Marcus Smart. It just seemed like a guy like Thibs. They play defense, they block out, they get rebounds. But he also plays his guys long minutes. They're starters, even when it's not injuries. He has certain guys he likes, and he builds a culture there where they look like an actual team here and not a bunch of individual players. It's not that AAU culture there. You know, for you football fans, NFL fans, is he the Marty Schottenheimer? Marty Schottenheimer, longtime NFL coach, very, very good at getting teams that are bad and loose to tighten up and play good defense and make minimum mistakes. But when Schottenheimer got into the playoffs, his teams, they played too tight. They were very conservative. He was stuck in his ways. Like Thibs, he's kind of stuck in his ways here, you know. So do you let him go after you've got your culture built after 3 or 4 years? You know, when Mark Jackson was coaching and established a culture there with the Warriors, then they let him go because they felt like they could just get to the playoffs with Mark Jackson. We're talking 12, 13 years ago. Then they hire former player and manager assistant Steve Kerr. And, of course, we know what happened there. They ended up winning multiple championships with the Steve Kerr. Is this the situation, or simply do they just need a few more players and just a slightly kind of like a Tom Kaufman from the from the Giants, who just took his hard pressure hand just a little bit off the players and it let them excel, let them breathe just a little bit. And of course, we know what happened. That Giants team, they ended up getting not one Super Bowl, but 2 Super Bowls led by Eli Manning. You know, that's the same kind of coach. The New Yorkers love it. I love it. I've been working my butt off since I've got back from Tampa. I was working my butt off to get to Tampa. I understand that blue collar stuff. I understand working your rear end to the bone. I respect the heck out of that. But you also need pace. Okay, you need pace to win. You know, so it's you know, you just got to be more smarter with your minute management. He's going to have to develop, my opinion, of Thibodeau, who I really like. But Carlos has a point. I'll bring it back up to him again on Friday. Hopefully he'll be in this Friday. If not, got plenty of other stuff to talk about. Okay, we're not that far removed from the draft. I got a lot of stuff to get into. But that's my thing about Tom Thibodeau. And the locals love it. So this is a big summer for the Knicks. This is a big summer. I think they'll probably keep Thibodeau. They need to add probably 2 players. I would like to get 2 more role players, preferably longer players, forwards. Love to find a way to get a Porter, somebody like that, or even a Bobby Portis there out of Milwaukee. Still fairly young player there in his prime, and see what the Knicks can do. You know, they simply ran out of gas, folks. They simply ran out of gas, and that's a common thing going back to Thibs' days at Chicago, where, you know, he's running Derrick Rose in the ground without calling a timeout forever, and he finally tells him to breathe, right? Breathe. You breathe, coach. You trying to run the breath out of us? So it's finding that common ground. I'm all about not load management, grind hard, big Pat Riley guy myself. That's what I'm into. I don't like all this coddling and whatnot, but there's got to be a common ground where you can go too far the other way as well. Okay? All righty then. That is a mouthful. Okay, so there was a big fight over the weekend. Didn't talk about it because the fight was being fought in Saudi Arabia. Okay, 4 years ago, I got on this program and talked up more boxing than I have in a long time. Tyson Fury really got me paying attention to boxing. I'm still novice level. I'm not an expert by no means. Love Tyson Fury. Love the guy he was named. His dad named him after in 1988. I want to say when he won the championship, he was named after Mike Tyson. Dad was a fighter. His brother's somewhat of a novice fighter, fought one of the actually he won the Logan, one of the Paul brothers YouTuber. It's very good. The one that's fighting actually Mike Tyson, Logan Paul, I think. Yeah, his brother, Tyson Fury's brother, beat him in a decision. So there's this big fight, and I'm reading about it online, and not a lot of people here in the States are talking about it, but I'm on the X out, and I've been reading about it. Now, I told you folks, I had to work 6 a.m. Central Time to 6 p.m. Central Time Saturday, right? So I'm following this fight between this, let me make sure I got this guy's name right, because Alexander Usyk from Ukraine, right? The 2 U's. And he's fighting Tyson Fury in Saudi Arabia. The undercard for this fight didn't start until started pretty early. It was like what 11:30. Let me make sure I got my notes right here. 11:30 Central Time or something like that a.m. And the actual fight didn't start till like 5:30 p.m. So I thought about it. I thought about ordering it, maybe trying to maybe record it. Then I decided not to. I'll just follow it on my phone when I have some downtime. When I have some downtime to follow this fight here per se. And I'll say this. Like I said, I followed Fury since he fought Deontay Wilder in a rematch. We're going back, and I talked about it on this program, we're going back February of 2020 when he beat the American Wilder. Now, that was fought in Vegas. And, that was just before the pandemic hit, right? We're talking like a month. It's a few weeks before the pandemic. Well, it was there, but it wasn't like we started shutting down stuff, right? And I loved his personality. I thought he was going to be a big star, but he did the rest of his fights, which were very close, over there in the UK. Now this last one in Saudi Arabia, by the way, $100 million purse for the Gypsy King, right? And even this fight right here that was fought over the weekend. But since that fight, Fury has had work ethic issues. Now he's well upfront about his issues in the past: depression, drugs, alcohol. Talks about his spirituality, getting back in shape. Doesn't quite have the best of physique about him, but he's a great fighter at 6'9". Very good jab. Looks impossible to get a hold of him, but his weight fluctuates up and down here. Often looks out of shape. Since he won the championship, there was no question that first fight with Deontay Wilder was a draw, but he won decisively. Of course, he beat him again in a fight, and he's fought some very close fights. But I kind of got the gist. He was kind of just resting on his laurels a little bit. He's going to be 36 this year, coming into this fight last Saturday. He done this stupid reality show with his wife and kids on Amazon. It's not worth watching, and I could kind of sense he was slipping. And I'm watching the fight on the X app in real time, people posting about it, the former Twitter out, which I'd much rather call it X now, that he was playing around with this Usyk guy who's undefeated, by the way, and got some big wins. He's beat some very prominent fighters. This Joshua guy beat him twice, for example. And he's an older fighter himself. But I follow. You guys know that Sports Scope is on the Roku channel, Northeast Streaming's Roku channel. Also, one of my former guests here, Jack Hirsch, been on this program. He's a Hall of Fame boxing writer. So I had to tune in Monday. This guy beat, spoiler alert, he upsets Tyson Fury. This is the first loss of Fury. Fury's playing around, putting his arms behind his back. I watched like 11 minutes of highlights today. But I like so Jack Hirsch does a show on Mondays on the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube page. Okay, that's what it's called as of now. Glovefish, you can catch it at 6 p.m. Eastern or 7 p.m. Eastern on Mondays, 6 p.m. Central Time, with another former boxer, or I think he was, Frank Latirizio. And here I've got a few quotes. This is about what I thought, being somewhat of a boxing historian. When I say somewhat, I've watched a lot of replays of great fights before I was born. I've watched Ali Foreman twice on ESPN2, replayed in classic, maybe 3 times. I've seen a 4-part documentary PBS cut out a few years ago on Muhammad Ali. Very good if you can go back in the archives and watch it, especially part 4, when Ali fights Joe Frazier in 1971, where Jack Hirsch talks about this. And it was in a documentary that Ali wasn't quite up to par in that first fight, but it was everything to Joe Frazier. It was every single thing to Joe Frazier. Listen to what Jack Hirsch says about this. I kind of got that gist while I'm watching this stuff on my phone, watching everything that Tyson Fury's been going through and reading up to this other guy's work ethic, this Usyk work ethic leading up to that fight. This was everything to him. So listen up here. Jack Hirsch here talking about the preparation that Usyk done to fight and beat Tyson Fury this past Saturday. Listen up.
Fury. But when I saw him against Francis Ngannou, I said to myself, I'm sorry, they can talk about him being out of shape.
And that's Frank also talking about, that's his opinion on the Glove Fish show. And then also, I'm going to let you hear a little bit of Jack Hirsch.
Much as they want. That's a guy to me who looks like he is on the decline and an empty package, and that scared me.
Let's see. Make sure I got the word for the good. Yeah, I think that's it. Listen up.
And then when I take into consideration Usyk, as we talked about, has basically been training for 10 months. It was his Joe Frazier fight of the century fight. It was his signature win. I just figured if it comes close, he's going to have that extra gear. And he did. Fury. But when
Frank agreed with me. He agreed with me. This guy trained his butt off. Okay. And here's Jack Hirsch, his thoughts on it. And this is a Hall of Fame boxing writer. And he thinks that Fury will come back and beat this guy. This guy's 6'3". Not an inch of fat on him. Usyk Pickles. The Ukraine fighter here. 24. No, I don't know why he's 37 though. 24 fights, no losses. Had Fury on the ropes late in this fight and barely lost it by a decision. Here's Jack Hirsch's take here. Longer cut.
And I would pick Fury to win the rematch because I compare his victory by Usyk to the one of Joe Frazier over Ali. He put so much into this, Usyk. So much. He missed the birth of his child. He missed all his family time. He was talking about birthdays. He was away from his family so long, even through the postponement of the first fight when they were supposed to originally fight. He never broke camp.
But Jack, here's the difference, though. Even though Frazier won the fight of the century, you could make a case he took more punishment than Ali did. In this fight, I think Fury ended up taking more punishment.
Fury was playing with this guy, putting his arms behind his back, showboating like nobody's business, and still one of the judges picked Fury. Said he had more points, and then the other judge picked picked Usyk, who I think it was like seventh, eighth round, had Fury on the ropes. Fury was really, really dazed. So he gets his gatherings. The round ends. This is later in the rounds. That may be ninth round. I can't remember. But he comes back and he's still putting his arms behind his back, playing around with this guy. Playing around with it and got his butt kicked. But that being said, I do think Fury will probably come back and beat him. But this was a great fight here. And Usyk, who gets the win, he's the heavyweight champion of the world here. And that was Jack Hirsch, Pickles. Yeah, that was Jack Hirsch there, the Hall of Fame boxing writer. Listen to Usyk talk about, get emotional. His dad, who taught him how to fight here, but he died in Crimea, Ukraine, back in 2012. Died in, so Usyk was about 25 there, 24, 25 there. Here's a few quotes after the fight here.
Sometimes before a big fight, your dad would come.
This is the champ, the new champ.
Did he come to you before this one?
For me, hard when my father coming for me, because I remember all my life.
Everybody's clapping. I guess they can feel. He said he could feel his dad's presence there. You know, it's kind of like a Rocky Balboa kind of moment. You know, talking about Mickey, his trainer, fictional movie.
He's here. Maybe like after.
The guy's tearing up. It's a good moment, man. You know, so that's a quote. I know he don't speak the best of English here. And then I'll give you a few quotes here from Tyson Fury, who's always, even in defeat, got a good sense of humor here. Listen up.
Just want to say thank you to God, in the mighty name of Jesus. We put on a good fight for the fans. You know, I always say it's about getting paid and getting laid.
Thanks God that he says get paid, get laid. Okay, well, can you please stop using that terminology, Mr. Tyson?
We did that tonight. I thank Alexander for the good fight. It was a close fight, you know. I believed, like, I thought I did enough, but, you know, I'm not a judge. I can't judge a fight while I'm boxing it. You know, if they would have said to me in the last round or whatever, you're down, go out and try and finish him, I would have done that. But everyone in the corner believed we were up. You know, all I had to do was just keep boxing and doing what I was doing, and, you know, I thought we was getting it. But it was what it was. I'm not going to cry about spilled milk. I've had plenty of victories, and I've gave God the glory. I've had this one loss and a close fight, you know, with a good man like Usyk. And it was what it was. I tried my best in there. I was having a lot of fun, actually. I don't know if it looked like it, but I was playing around, hands behind my back. I was enjoying it. You know, he's a good fighter, Alexander, and I was catching him, and he was catching me, and it was a good fight. So hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did.
Well, I mean, it was getting annoying with me with him putting his hands behind his back like that, thinking he's Ali. And, yeah, he's got a good attitude. I'm like Jack Hirsch. I think he'll come back and destroy this guy. But maybe Usyk retires on top. Fury got the $100 million. I guess that's why these oil guys in Saudi Arabia paid the most money. That's why it was there. And Usyk got 45. So it's a good story for Usyk. I still like Fury, even though I think he's got some work ethic issues. He's still one of the better fighters, in my opinion, of all time. With that 6'9" reach there, if he just had somebody push him a little bit harder, he could have been like the greatest of all time. But he's older in age now, and he's had his personal issues and demons, like we all do, to a certain extent, in my opinion. There, still a pretty interesting fight there. I will say this. If they rematch, I think that I'll probably watch it. I will order it. I will order that particular fight. I did have one more take to make about basketball. Back to the NBA. Got a few more minutes here, and I totally missed this before I got into that fight because I had some good soundbite there from the fight. I've brought this up before in the past about the NBA trade deadline. The NBA trade deadline, these players that are crucial in this particular playoff have been, a lot of crucial players have been NBA trade deadline acquisitions. I mentioned earlier the Mavericks getting PJ Washington, 15, 20, 22, 20. This guy coming out of nowhere. Scoring big for them. And also, again, Washington, Daniel Radford, I mentioned him getting acquired. He was a NBA trade deadline acquisition mid-season guy here, okay? I mentioned the Pacers earlier. The Pacers, whether the Bucks lose players or not, or the Knicks lose players, the Pacers are still there. They're still there, and they probably should have won a game one last night. But Pascal Siakam, I knew Siakam was going to be a big get for somebody, the former Toronto Raptor. He was a trade deadline guy. Teams trying to either start over or get contracts off of them. It's a big deal. That trade, those mid-season moves are crucial Siakam's huge pickles for the Indiana Pacers here. Big difference maker off a primary young team other than him and Miles Turner there. And, of course, this wasn't this year. But Derek White has been getting players behind who holding the ball over their back, getting steals for this Boston team here. Now, remember, the Celtics moved Smart. They moved him to the over to Memphis. And then, of course, they brought in Drew Holiday in the offseason. But 2 years ago, right around the trade deadline, Derek White has really blossomed into more of a truer point guard. And he's just a better player at getting the ball, a more consistent player, I would say, than a Marcus Smart. Even though they played together, he was coming off the bench more. His minutes seem have gone up. He's been crucial to that team here. Derek White acquired, I want to say, from the Spurs a couple years ago, right at that trade deadline. So, it's kind of a down time in the season. We're talking it's moved from late February to March and give or take. It's right around that. Sometimes they move it into earlier February. That is moved around quite frequently, but it's right around that All-Star break, whatnot. You're just done with football or about to be done with the NFL, and you look over to the NBA, these players are traded. Then you look back in May, fast forward to May, late April, May, into June, you're saying, oh, player X, who's killing it. Two big players for Dallas there. Those guys end up going to the helping them get to the Western Conference Finals here, helping out Jason Kidd and that bunch there, and actually give them a puncher's chance tonight when which I've got it recorded. I'm going to watch it here in a few minutes against this Minnesota Timberwolves. So a lot of good stuff there. Also, I'll probably dig into this story later on next week. It looks like, no, it don't look like. This has been breaking news everywhere. Earlier this afternoon, TNT Sports, by the way, they're adding college football playoff games this season. That'll be something different. 5-year sub-license agreement with ESPN, and TNT will present first 2 rounds in the 24-25 college. Remember, the college football playoff is this broke today, and ESPN PR, public relations, have put this out there, and it's widely reported. TNT will have the first 2 rounds. In addition to the first rounds, TNT will add 2 quarterfinals each year in 26 and 28 in the college football playoff. Of course, ABC, ESPN is going to have a big chunk of this. So we're really, really going to have a big TNT's coming up big. Now, there are rumors that NBC maybe, this is really taking me back to my childhood, Marv Albert days, going to get the NBA playoffs again, like they did in the 90s, which would break up TNT's Shaq and Barkley show. And I'm like, why would they do that? Why don't they just buy their contracts out and bring those guys over to NBC if that comes to full fruition? So TNT gaining some stuff here, gaining some college football playoffs, and a possibility they could be losing NBA playoffs, which that's the best post-game show out there. Pre-game, post-game inside the NBA with Ernie, which Barkley kind of mentioned today. He expects him to retire. Kind of let that cat out of the bag. All good things can't last forever, but I would like to see at least Shaq, Barkley, and Kenny move on if they have to NBC. To NBC there, if you want to make a splash at NBC and get that NBA package, why not get the top guys? That's all I'm saying. I like seeing him get Marv Albert out of the out of retirement and call some of these games like old times, man. Take me back to the 90s. But anyways, again, folks, I want to make this announcement one more time. Ralph Williams, formerly of Pittsburgh Steelers, out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he worked with Pittsburgh Steelers radio. That maybe not the actual flagship per se, but Williams will be on tomorrow talking the Steelers. Going to ask him about his background. This guy really knows the Steelers. They're going to be one of the crucial aspects, most talked about teams. Remember, you got Russell Wilson coming on to that team. Mike Tomlin last year, his contract, really want to get and pick his brain. Ralph Williams here, we'll be on tomorrow, and tune into his show whenever you get a chance. The Sports Corner with Ralph Williams is smoking Jim Frazier every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, to 6 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, the Twitch app, and, of course, the X app platforms here, okay? Of course, you can always listen to the replay. So he'll be on the program tomorrow. Ralph Williams will be on the program tomorrow. Going to ask him a little bit of his career as well and get his thoughts. And I'm supposed to go on his program on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central for a few minutes. Talk a little bit of the Tennessee Titans. One writer from Pro Football Network, not Talk Network, said the Titans would go 2-15 next year. And I thought, if they do that, Will Levis won't be the guy because they've made too many upgrades. So I don't know. I think that guy was just trying to get clickbait on his website. But anyway, have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, here on Sports Go.